Welcome to Stuff You Missed in History Class, a production of iHeartRadio.
Hello and happy Friday. I'm Tracy V. Wilson.
And I'm Holly Fry.
We talked about Unearthed all this week.
We sure did.
That, quote, darning tool, or maybe not a darning tool, that was found.
Oh my goodness, so
at
funny.
Vindalin. It's very funny. And also, if you see a picture of it, you might wonder why anybody described it as like a darning tool in the first place, because it does have a very suggestive visual appearance. I don't know if it looks that way from every angle, but from the photos that are, accompanying articles about it, it does look very suggestive to me.
I was tickled when at the end of the second episode, you read a listener mail that mentioned Star Trek, because I had a note in my notes that I take as we're talking about what might go behind the scenes about Star Trek, which is that I just was suddenly thinking about Dr. Bones being horrified by trepanation.
Oh, yeah.
And how completely, prehistoric the idea was. I forget what his exact line is, but he saves Chekhov from being trepanned when they're back in the 20th century. And I was like,
yeah. Nowadays, trepanation, to me, brings up two immediate associations from literature/television. And one of them is Outlander. There's an episode in Outlander where somebody has a head injury and Claire wants to save them. And the way to save them is like relieving the pressure on their brain. And she knows what to ask for, which is a trephine, which is what the tool was called that was used to make the hole in trepanation. And the other, I think the very first time I ever came across that term was reading the His Dark Materials series. There's like a reference to a skull that's found that has had a hole made in it. I feel like early on in those books, I don't remember if it made it into the TV show or not, because I think if it had been, it would have been like one of the early seasons of the show, which is a while back now.
I don't know where the first place I would have been. I feel like I had either a science or a history teacher who had like a ghoulish moment of enjoying explaining that to us while we all writhed in our desks.
It's also possible that I learned about it in like some course that I don't remember now. I increasingly, as I get older, will realize that like I just have no memory at all of something that I will discover later. Oh, no, I definitely was there when that happened.
I interacted with that thing once before that. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm also going to pat myself on the back for, not breaking into any sort of song or giggle fits when we talked about Kuzco. Just me.
Oh, sure.
Emperor's New Groove, one of my favorite Disney movies.
Yeah. The thefts from the New Bedford Whaling Museum.
Woo!
Are just, there's a couple of things that when I was researching that kind of made me go, what? And one of them was the thefts from the New Bedford Whaling Museum, which I became aware of because a friend of mine sent me a link about one of the articles. And at that point, like, it was some weeks after these thefts were discovered. And I was like, well, this whole story is just wild.
It is wild.
In just a lot of different ways. And the fact that apparently multiple like antique and collectible dealers were like, this piece just seems too nice for somebody to just be selling it to me. So like that, I was very captivated by that whole thing. And also I had seen the headlines about the sword believed to be a replica turning out to be real. Like I had seen those headlines. I had bookmarked them to look at them later. I did not realize that this was not just like a sword that somebody had somewhere. It was a sword in the collection of the Field Museum. And that was what made me go, wait, this happened at the Field? That adds a whole new layer of me being fascinated by this story.
Whoops.
Yeah.
I also got a giggle about the heart-shaped pendant that we talked about.
Yeah.
That was made of high-quality materials, but not high-quality workmanship.
Uh-huh.
And how this has led researchers to be like, oh, it may have been made for like a situation where it wouldn't be seen up close. And I was like, here's what this sounds like to me.
Okay.
And obviously this is pure speculation and my own ding-dongery. Somebody's like idle child, by which I mean probably an adult child, with more money than sense, thought that they were going to make jewelry, and they bought really nice, expensive crafting supplies and kind of made a piece of junk. Like,
yeah,
that happens all the time now.
Sure. Sure. I'm also like, somebody's apprentice took from the wrong cabinet.
Right? Also very possible. These are my headcanons of what really was going on with that pendant.
One of the headcanons that I often have when, I think I've mentioned this before, sometimes when I'm putting these together, I will find 2 news releases from 2 different universities about the same study. And most likely, it's just that each university has their own PR department and each university like wants to send out the thing. But in my head, I always imagine that some sort of intense, maybe bitter rivalry developed among the coordinating universities. And now they're not speaking to each other.
I mean, that's always possible, right?
That's actually going to come up soon in a non-Unearthed episode, which, we'll talk more about when we get to that, which is, I've written a whole mental backstory about what I think happened and why there is a discrepancy involving somebody's birth year. It is not a real thing. It is my own made up fantasy land
dun, dun, dun.
of research. I feel like that's a thing that we as humans are prone to doing, is like filling in the gaps.
Oh, yeah.
And the important thing to remember is that, like, try not to get mad about the gaps that your brain filled in when you don't actually know what happened.
Right. I feel like this could be applied to a media literacy course.
Yeah.
Right? Because people think, like, especially, I mean, as you know, like, I'm a big Star Wars nerd, and there's always so much speculation about what's going on behind the scenes at Lucasfilm. And it's like, usually for any situation of like seeming corporate intrigue or whatever, the explanation is usually really boring, where it's like, oh no, their PR people just like lost each other's email, or like they just decided they would each do their own, but I mean, it's fun to speculate and it's a great way to be creative, but yeah, as long as you're not married to that as an expectation, golden.
Yeah. So, I'm still enjoying putting these episodes together. This time was a little bit unusual because I put these together while Holly was on vacation. And so often I will, I think there were a couple things that I had run into before you had left. And I think I had told you, like, the field was one of the things that I was like, did this thing happen at the field? But a bunch of this I worked on while you were not there. And so you did not get peppered with as many weird things that I stumbled across while working on them. Because,
hey, cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah. Milk. I have never been a milk drinker. Cheese.
Mm-hmm.
We'll eat it by the pound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah. So happy Friday, everybody. Whatever is coming up for you this weekend, I hope it's going to be great. We will be back with a Saturday Classic tomorrow. We will have a brand new episode on Monday. Stuff You Missed in History Class is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.